warmed up and it's very chilly where we are. So looking forward to getting those pedals going. So today we are still riding day 7 of our 8-day ride. So again, such a beautiful day, and we'll start to see some of those beautiful avatar mountains that those who have done the 8-day ride, the southern ride, they will know exactly the ride that we're talking about. So we finished up yesterday at the dam, and so now we are heading to the beautiful Cliff and River Resort. How wonderful it would be to be there this weekend. But look, today we are joined by someone who describes himself as a mad Scotsman. So Mickey Campbell, we heard from Rupert earlier this week with Tomo, and Rupert is currently cycling virtually the race across America. Well, Mickey is going to share his story of actually competing in the race across America, and how 5 minutes can be so important in determining your journey. And he's also set himself a pretty wicked challenge for this weekend, which I will let Pete and Mickey explore as they have a chat. So I'm going to hand it over to you both.
Thanks, CT. Morning, Mickey. How you going?
I'm very good, Pete. Good morning.
It's a wonderful morning, and you got a big weekend ahead of you?
I have indeed, yeah. I've kind of thrown myself into this endeavour of trying to cycle 800 kilometres over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, we might explore a bit further, but for those that are listening, I have a bit of an astute ear, and what it tells me, Mickey, is you might have come to Australia at some point in your life, and you might not have been born here. Is that right? Am I picking up a bit of an accent there?
You surprised me, Pete. There's obviously something inbuilt there that recognises that. My standard joke is that I don't come with subtitles, so you need to listen very closely. And I've actually been here about 22 years, and despite that, this kind of accent keeps on sticking in there. But until I find a better one, I'll just keep the one I've got.
Oh, no, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I can't, when you speak, I can't, for the want of me, not want to say William Wallace, though, but...
There's that, and then people compare you to Shrek. You know, it's like, get out of that swamp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool too. So what, did you come out with a family, or were you a sole traveller by that age?
I grew up in Scotland, obviously, Pete, and we left university, and a couple of things you're taught in Scotland. One is it's quite a divided city. It's Glasgow, and you're either Catholic or Protestant, and you're kind of like you're taught to hate each other. And then united, you're actually taught to hate the English. So I left university and had 3 jobs down in England, and I says, oh, to hell with that, I'm off. So I went and travelled the world, and ended up in Australia. Absolutely enjoyed it. Met my wife in a dodgy backpackers in King's Cross. Hooked up back in the UK. And then we got to the UK, and it was a kind of case after about 7 or 8 years. We says, do we emigrate to Ireland? My wife's got an Irish background. And we says, no, we'll end up alcoholics within 30 days. Do we get back to like, yes, because I'd been working over there. No, we'll end up getting blown up within 30 days. So, you know, Australia, here we come. So we did all the kind of like the legwork, and we came out in an independent visa. So 22 years later, we're still here.
And so would it be what, 98, is that right?
That's correct. We landed here. We managed to do this cracking trip beforehand. So we travelled through Central and South America. And then we landed in Australia on November the 1st. And we landed in Melbourne, and we kind of hooked up with a couple of our mates. And I'd got my kilt flown over. So we ended up going to like the Melbourne Cup on the 2nd of November. And it was 40 degrees. And I've got a heavyweight kilt, so that when you actually like do a twirl, it doesn't go up around your ears, it actually stays down. and wearing that kilt in 40 degrees heat was just, it was horrendous. So it was.
Yeah.
So it was a good.
What was growing up?
So.
Well, talk us through growing up in Scotland.
I mean, my youth would probably be best described as being plagued by wanderlust. So, I mean, I can't recollect the actual story, but what actually happened was I got my mum got a phone call from my aunt. This was when I was about 5 or 6, and I'd managed to cycle 10 miles on, you know, reasonably busy roads, but I had the kind of awareness to know where she lived, and I cycled there. So for my sins from doing that, then she actually put a rope around my waist, tied the other end around a clothes pole, and so my wanderlust was kind of restricted a little bit. So that was the earliest. I mean, that story was recounted to me on several occasions, and you can imagine that happening these days and the amount of trouble.
Yeah.
I think there was two things that facilitated the wanderlust as well. One was I had this kind of real love of books. I was a prolific reader, and I was reading about all these kind of faraway places, and you know, one of those was Australia, and that kind of planted the seed a little bit. The other thing that was you know, facilitated that wanderlust in those early days was like, back then you had the freedom of the land and you could go anywhere you wanted to go, and like your parents wouldn't be too worried about you. So I took advantage of that, and like we lived next to like the mountains, and I was well, summer or winter I was up there, and kind of that was my playground, and they wouldn't be worried about you, and like, you know, there'd be 10-meter snowdrifts and you'd be just diving into them, and like, or like there'd be reservoirs and you'd be swimming in those, and like, you know, it'd be 3 degrees the actual temperature. So you kind of had the freedom of the land. There was one time I remember, you know, just keeping it to cycling. Me and a few mates, we ended up cycling from our place to Glasgow Airport, and then we thought, oh, it'd be a good idea to cycle down to Girvan. And I just looked up the distance there last night. Girvan's away down by Ayrshire, where Robbie Burns comes from. That was a cycle distance of like 70 miles, which is about
70 miles.
Yeah. And we just, you know, we decided to do that just on a whim. And we did it again, like a couple of weeks later, and we took a backpack down and we took a tent. And we just stayed down there for the weekend. And one of the guys I was cycling with, he was in an accident with a train, and he got half his leg amputated. You know, something like that wasn't a problem for him. And I was just like standing back in amazement and thinking like he did that, you know, without any kind of like second thoughts. And we had an absolutely brilliant weekend. So you kind of, you had the rule of the land, and nobody was too worried about you. And growing up in Glasgow, you know, it still had its, what would you call it? Just its foibles. Like, I learned to be quite a fast runner because there was people wielding knives and machetes at me at several occasions, and you know, you just learn to be a fast runner. I mentioned about the green and the blue side, and it's still roughly like that these days, and you know, it just doesn't seem to be shifting at all. It's very inculcated in people. So you had those kind of things to contend with, and I was reading a book here recently, and the opening, so it was done by a Scottish author, and the opening line of the book was, there's 3 things that are an anathema. That's easy for me to say. I had to look up that word. It means foreign. 3 things that are an anathema to Scottish people. Number 1, dentists. You look at my teeth, and my teeth are typical of any kind of Scottish people. You actually avoid the dentist at all costs. Number 2 is salads. And you look at the Scottish diet, and it's absolutely devoid of salads. And number 3, forgiveness. You know, they get back to a bloody battle, in 1314, the Battle of Bannockburn, and how we kind of like managed to beat up the English. It was Robert the Bruce, and he managed to like get the better of Edward II. And you know, they still hark on about this sort of sorry, I'll not say that at this time in the morning.
Hey, you can say that, mate.
But they still hark on about that sort of stuff, and like, you know, forget it, mate, move on. And so
It was 700 years ago.
exactly, you know, it was like
Let it go.
the 14th century, jeez. So that's a couple of things that characterise my upbringing. But you know, I like to think these days I've grabbed the best of both the Aussie kind of way of life and the Scottish way of life. Like the Aussie way of life is, I've just got this inbuilt sense of adventure, and I love to kind of like treat people as equals. Back in the UK, there's like a kind of class system, and it's still quite prevalent. But I like the way like everybody has a fair go here, and everybody kind of treats everybody as equals. And then in Scotland, I like to think like you know, I've got that kind of stubbornness or that persistence that kind of what feeds through my veins, and you know, I quite like that. And then growing up there, you need a sense of humour. It's like raining all the time, and like, and it doesn't necessarily lead to an outdoor life, but you really need to have a good sense of humour. And you know, you get that man Billy Connolly who typifies everything like a good Scottish comedian.
So coming out here, mate, was it clear from day one when you both came out? Did you have kids at that time?
No, we didn't. We had a few comments from my wife's family back in Ireland. You must be shooting blanks, or you know, we took about 5 or 6 years to kind of like settle in Australia, have a good time, and then Molly came along.
Yeah.
Molly's now 18, and Paddy, he kind of followed, and he's now 16.
And so when you came out, you and your wife, and decided to settled in Sydney, and was there a point where you both thought, is this the right thing, or was there times where you've gone, geez, I think we should have stayed, or has it always been it felt home pretty quickly? What was the story for you both?
It was more to do with the fact that my wife came out to Australia with the condition that we'd only give it like 2 or 3 years, and then we'd head back to the UK. And kind of coming from an Irish background, so she was born in England and grew up in England, and had Irish parentage. She's what you call a plastic party, and she, you know, being Irish, like they're just so much into family, and it's really strong bonds, and so she didn't want to necessarily leave that, despite the fact that her sister, she was living in the Hunter Valley, she'd moved out here. So the idea was to give it 2 or 3 years, and then like I just kept quiet because I absolutely loved it from day one.
Yeah,
and you know, 2 years came without much ceremony, and I just kept it quiet. 3 years came, just kept it quiet, and here we are. But yeah, Sharon loves it. I mean, I think at some point in her life she would love to go back to the UK, and I'm never saying never, and there might be still a possibility to get back there.
Yeah, and have your parents still in Scotland?
No, both their sets of parents have passed away. My dad probably, I think, 12 years ago, and my mum 7 years ago. That's probably a lot closer to Sharon, my wife's mum and dad, and yeah, they passed away as well. Poor Sharon's dad. I mean, he was just like an amazing guy. Like brought up 5 children. Well, Sharon's mum did as well, obviously, and but he was just the life and soul of the party, and he ended up getting Parkinson's at 44. He passed away at 6, and you could see he was still like, you know, in those kind of last days, there was still that light that was flickering there, and it was still like, you see that life was still in him, and he was just an amazing guy who I kind of looked up to and admired.
Yeah. Mate, I assume you can see the road that we're riding on in Thailand, and This day, day 7, is such a beautiful day. You can see the quality of your roads. You can see the traffic's a bit of a problem there, Mickey. And yeah, this is the day that we head. We've been heading from the east across to the west coast, and there's a few mountain ranges that we pass through, and not necessarily over, but it's a stunning day. So it's clear from those activities as a little fella in Scotland that the spirit of adventure was in you, and you took it to the next level. We'll talk about a race across America, and we'll obviously talk about what you've got coming up this weekend. But what are some of the highlights where you look back at these endurance events you've undertaken, and you're either amazed by yourself or ones that stand out for different reasons?
First of all, Pete, the road does look amazing. Looks very enticing. I reckon I might be doing this ride very soon with you. So, in terms of adventures, there's so many. Like it ranges from like my first triathlon. I did it up in Forster, and I wasn't too sure if I would get into triathlon. So there, I turned up with a pair of budgie smugglers and a mountain bike, and running gear. So like it was a half Ironman, so it was 2 kilometers or 1.9 kilometers swim. It was a 90 kilometer ride, and then you do a half marathon, which is 21 k's. So I was in the water, and like typical Scottish background, you know, you swim as if you've got an anchor tied to your ankles, and I was just kind of like, trying to avoid drowning. And all these people swimming over the top of me as well, because it gets quite competitive. And those people to the, I've got long nails, I defy those buggers, so that I do. So I came out of the water and my back was ripped to pieces, so blood coming out of it. And then I jumps on the mountain bike, and I didn't even bother to put like road tires on the mountain bike. You know, I still had the mountain bike tires. And I managed to do like a 3-hour bike, so that's like roughly 30 kilometers an hour, and it was funny because like on the uphills, I'm pretty good on the uphills, and you could see all these like guys taking it really seriously, and they'd be down in the aero bars and trying to move themselves up the hill as fast as they could, and they'd hear the whir, and the mountain bike tires just come up behind them and overtake them, and you could see them getting really, really pissed off. And I just like, I still do this. Like, I love overtaking people, and especially if they're youngsters, and just casting an eye back and like they can see it. Stuff like that. I just cast my eye back and give them a wry smile, and proceed on my way. But sure enough, they would catch me in the downhills, and you'd kind of look back and give me a wry smile. So it was kind of like pull and push the whole way through like the actual bike leg, and that was pretty funny. Climbed Aconcagua, which is the highest mountain in South America, and it took us 17 days to get up and 5 days to get back down. What you do is you walk in from they call it the trailhead, and you walk in. It's about 5 days, I think it was, and you go in through all these kind of like steep gorges, and all your stuff is actually carried for you. They carry use these kind of yaks that they kind of, they bring in all your stuff in these drums, put them on their back, and you've got this shepherd who kind of like gets all the yaks and gets them going and brings them in. So we met up with them after 5 days, and you're up at quite a decent altitude at base camp. And we're kind of looking around, and one of the fittest guys, or he looked like the fittest guy, he was a doctor from San Francisco, and he just took terrible altitude sickness to the extent we had to fly in a helicopter and get him out there, because like the only way to actually combat altitude sickness is to descend.
Get down.
Get down. And that was a wee bit of a wake-up call, because we thought this guy was the fittest and he knew his body and stuff like that, but he went down. And then what we ended up doing is, you go up to Camp 1, you carry your stuff up there, you bury it, and then you move back down to like base camp, and then you sleep at the lower altitude. And then the next day you move up there and you sleep at the higher altitude, and then you have a rest day. And then you basically proceed to do that all through like the different camps, and you do them. There's roughly 4 camps in Aconcagua. And then summit day, you're up at midnight. And the idea is to get back down before like the next time it gets nightfall, so that you've got ample time to get up to the summit and then back down. And I just remember absolutely like being drained of energy. You know, I wasn't getting like the necessary food and hydration into me. And there was, I mean, he's turned out to be a really great mate, one of my Lakparita Sherpa. And he managed to like help me get to the top. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have actually like made it to the top. He just kept on kicking my backside and like convincing me you can do this. And yeah, he was basically a shining light. And I remember getting back down off the summit and you know, getting back to like the high camp, and my legs just kept on giving way. You felt like a Pinocchio, somebody's holding the strings above you, and like, you know, your legs, and you just pick yourself up and you make sure you get back down to base camp. The problem with mountaineering is like, and it does, we ended up 2 people died when we were actually on the mountain, and we get involved in the partial rescue of one of them, but he ended up passing away. You know, a lot of people think you can take it lightly, but you don't. And what you end up doing is like a lot of people die on the way back down, because on the way up, that's where your focus is getting to the summit. And that's where your energy is as well. You're kind of like, you know, using all your energy to get to the top. So on the way back down, you've lost the focus, you've kind of lost the energy. And that's when people kind of like, and you think the job's done, but the job's only half done. You know, you really need to get you back down off the mountain safely. So that was a really, really good lesson, you know, in perseverance. It was a good lesson in support, how you really need to kind of rely on that. It was a good lesson in focus as well. I really should have been a lot more focused on hydration, nutrition. And you kind of take all those lessons, and I've got a couple of mates to actually do Kilimanjaro. And we climbed up that, and it's just an absolutely spectacular setting, a fabulous mountain. We watched a movie on the way over. It was done by Al Gore, and it was called An Inconvenient Truth. And he was basically on about how the snow melt was actually disappearing from Mount Kilimanjaro. Well, he must have been seeing another mountain, because the minute we got to high camp, there was like 6 foot snow. And and I was kind of, you know, by virtue of doing like Aconcagua, I was able to help my mates and made sure that they retained the focus. When you go through snow, it's really important to kind of let somebody else do the work, or somebody else who's got the energy, and they cut the steps.
Yep.
I was doing that on behalf of them, and a couple of our guides were doing that on behalf of us. And all those guys would do was actually plant their feet into like the steps were made. It's somewhat equivalent to drafting and cycling. So what you end up doing in cycling is, if you draft, you're putting out, say, like 50% less energy just sitting in behind somebody. So it was like that. So by virtue of doing that, then I was able to help those guys get to the top. And when we got to the top, you know, we did a wee song and did a wee dance, and yeah, it was just amazing. Like the way the actual Kenyans go over there, everything's a Hakuna Matata. And yeah, it was just a brilliant experience. One that I'd highly recommend to anybody. Just take your time to actually get up there. Like it's called the Coca-Cola route. And the reason being, everybody just discards their Coke bottles. But there's 7 routes that kind of go up the side of the mountain. They all converge at this one point at the lip of a crater. Kilimanjaro's an extinct volcano. And they converge at the lip of the crater, and then you kind of walk up and you do about 1 kilometre, walk around the crater, and that's the highest point. And if you take one of the other paths, and you take a little bit longer to acclimatise, so that you don't suffer from altitude sickness, you know, like nausea, pretty bad headaches, stuff like that, then it will be a really, really enjoyable experience. So yeah, those are some of the things, Pete. I mean, cycling wise, yeah, we said we'll talk about it. Race Across America was just a huge highlight. I've done even stuff like our local park, Oatley Park, where I live, St George Cycling, have like winter racing, and it's 8 laps of Oatley Park, and there's a few hills there, and it is the hardest 45 minutes of your entire week. You are absolutely,
right?
your heart rate's through the roof. But every time you finish it, and you're riding with like semi-professionals as well, and like they're starting behind you because it's a handicap race. But it's just, for me, it's like just a phenomenal 45 minutes, getting your heart rate up with that, racing like that. And yeah, I've kind of missed it during this COVID period. So that,
Imagine if you weren't doing that on your mountain bike. Hey,
Oh,
so let's talk about.
I quickly
Let's talk
learned
about.
that lesson, I'll tell you.
Yeah. It was funny when you were talking about swimming, and it's like, yeah, as a Scotsman, that you swim with a weight attached to you. It's finally all made sense to me. That's clearly where my heritage comes from, because I've done a couple of small tries myself, and the rescue boat that they have there that's in the water. They kind of just putt next to me with a big gap, waiting to hook me in. That's how bad a swimmer I am. So I'm going to say that it must be the heritage takes me back to the Highlands of Scotland.
We did a Ironman up in Lancowie, and for the swim there, it was like a triangle, and you do 2 loops of the triangle. And in between each apex of the triangle, they had a raft, because I think people in Asia, they're not necessarily strong swimmers. They share a little bit of that Scottishness. And the amount of people that would just jump onto the raft and have like a 30-second breather and then get back into the water. But the water up there was like 26 degrees, so you couldn't wear a wetsuit, and the wetsuit gives you a bit of buoyancy as well. And again, swimming's like drafting, or like that mountaineering example I gave you. If you can get in somebody's toes, they actually cut through the water for you, and it's actually like all you need to do is place your trust in them and make sure, hopefully they're going in the right direction. So
and be able to keep up. That's the essential part to that part.
It is, yeah. Yeah, you just make sure.
Let me talk to you about Race Across America. So, as CT said, Rupert, who Tomo interviewed, I think 2 mornings ago, 2 or 3 mornings ago now, he's doing that virtually, and he's in a car yard at Mona Vale in Sydney, and I don't think you sit there shaking your head just knowing the pain and the struggle. So let's just paint the picture for those who might not know it's a 4,600 kilometre ride, is that right?
5,000, Pete.
5,000 kilometres? Yeah, and how many days have you got to do it in? And you can do it in a team, or you did it solo. Tell us about what a day would look like, the support, your rest, the amount of fuel. Just give us an insight into that journey for you.
Yeah, so the Race Across America is arguably like the hardest event in the world. There's more people that are actually I think there's 3 times more people that climb Everest than there are actual finishers, solo finishers of Race Across America. So that gives you a bit of an idea of like the difficulty of it. Each year, you do get different categories. So you get solo, you get 2-man teams, you get 4-man teams, you get 8-man teams, you get mixed, so male and female, or like female. I think, did you interview one of the Belarus or something as well?
I did, yeah, very early on, Julianne Haslett.
Yeah, so you all those kind of different categories, and the solo people are given 12 days. If you're over 60, then you get 13 days to actually complete it. The guys that are in teams, They roughly get 7 days to complete it. So you start in a place called Oceanside, which is on the west coast. It's just above San Diego. And you cut a diagonal. You follow a little bit of Route 66 or Route 66. And you kind of cut across the US diagonal and you end up in a place called Annapolis, which is the big American Navy base. And that's in Maryland. You cut through 12 states. So let me try. California, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and then you end up in Maryland. You cut across like 2 mountain ranges. So you cut across the Rockies and the Rockies, I mean, they're much bigger, but it's like a much more gentle incline. And then you cut across the Appalachians on the East Coast. And the Appalachians are a lot harder because they're smaller, but they're like razor teeth. They kind of go up jaggy and then they come down jaggy, and the incline's just a lot steeper. So you roughly cover 6 Everests. I think it's something like 170,000 foot of climbing that you do. The highest point is Wolf Creek Pass, which is about 11,500 feet. So you're kind of got a lot of altitude to deal with. And then you cross about 5 rivers. I think the Mississippi River represents roughly the halfway point. So, I mean, it's always been a burning desire to kind of do this for me. I got wind of it a long time ago, and I've just been following it avidly since then. Then I was given.
How do you get in? Is it something that you got to qualify for? Is it invitation? I'm assuming it's not any random that can sign up.
So there are like qualifying races that you have to do, and the one that they had for Australia and New Zealand was over in New Zealand, and it's called the Lake Tahoe Max Enduro, and you do 8 laps of Lake Taupo, sorry, not Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
And you do.
So you did the 8-lap one.
I never did it, Pete, because that year they didn't have the qualification, so I had to give them a couple of long distance runs I did back in Europe prior to that, and they used that as qualification. So I did it for the 30th year anniversary as well, which was 2011. And so I think maybe they were a wee bit more lenient with me in terms of qualification, but normally it is quite strict. And you have to do stuff like the race across the West, which takes you from California to a place called Durango in Colorado. Or there's the race across Europe. There's a whole load of races that have started up now. Race around Ireland. The race across Italy. So you have to do those qualifiers now to actually get in there.
And how many, in your planning, you've got 12 days. I'm not smart enough to do the math as I ride, Mickey. What are you planning to do in a kilometre number per day, and how many hours per day do you plan to spend on the bike?
So you don't think of them as days, you really think them of 24-hour periods, and every 24-hour period you try and like cycle 21, and then you'll get half an hour getting off your bike and half an hour getting back on your bike, and you use about 2 hours to get some sleep. So that was roughly the plan of attack. Excuse me, what we ended up doing was more or less following that plan until we got to Kansas, and they're farming the wheat, and I think a lot of pollen managed to like make its way into my system, and it just adversely affected me. So I had to take like a 6-hour outage, sleeping in a grotty motel in the back of nowhere. I think it was near Wichita. So you ever heard the song "The Wichita Lineman"? If you're a country fan, then it was near that place, and that kind of knocked the crap out of me. And somebody's just saying the audio's dropped out.
No, I can hear you, mate.
All right, cool. Um, and I managed to recover from that, but it put a little bit of dent in our time. So we had to actually decrease the amount of time that I was sleeping. And they've got cut-off points, one in Colorado, one at the Mississippi River, and then one just before you kind of like do the last 5 checkpoints coming into like Maryland. We made all those checkpoints, but it was always like a bit of a push to kind of get there because of that, just that little bit of a setback. So yeah, I mean, at the end, then I managed to get 4 hours, 4.5 hours sleep. My support crew can correct me here, but I got 4.5 hours sleep in the last 4 days. And during that time, then there was a few hallucinations that came thick and fast. The hallucinations, like, just all down to sleep deprivation. So I'd managed to practice. I'd managed to practice sleep deprivation during, you know, the kind of training period. And what I'd do is I'd actually just try and like sleep for 3 hours every 24 hours. So sometimes I'd be in my office at work and I'd just like close the door and go for a 10-minute power nap, and then have 3 hours like during the night, and then up and, you know, on the bike and straight into it. And I did that for 6 weeks. I probably, in hindsight, did it too close to the start line. So you want to arrive at the start line quite fresh. And I was a bit tired actually arriving at the start line. You know, it's a feat in itself just to get to the start line, let alone the finish. Yeah, the sleep deprivation kicked in, and I mean, we were going through Gettysburg, which is in Pennsylvania, the old Civil War site, and there's a lot of graveyards there. And I was imagining them to be like chessboards. The big pieces were the large gravestones, and the small pieces, the pawns, they were the kind of small gravestones. And they were just playing chess, and every time they made a move, they collided into each other and they exploded. And there was about 3 or 4 graveyards. So I'm seeing this in triplicate, and I'm just like, you know, keep on riding, keep on riding, keep on riding. So, and my support crew says, like, you know, they never noticed I was just going in a straight line. So, so that's another aspect of it as well, Pete, is like you've got a support crew. I had a couple of navigators, all homegrown Aussies that were kind of helping me out. We flew them out there. They get in the training rides as well. You know, it's as much of an imposition on those guys as well. They're kind of like got the sleep deprivation happening. But my next door neighbour, he used to work with ASIO. He was about 70 when he did it. So he knew like the US quite a bit from a few visits. But he was driving through Indiana, and if you can think of like cycling behind, sort of driving a bike, and the actual the pedals are just going like that, and it becomes a wee bit hypnotic. And he's having trouble staying awake, and he's getting hallucinations as well, because like he's imagining he's going through these kind of highly wooded areas, and he's imagining he's going down like the middle of Pitt Street in Sydney. And so it's as much as an imposition for the actual support crew as it is for like the ride.
Sure. Mate, I want to get to talk about what's coming up on the weekend. We've just got, as you saw, someone's had their audio drop out, but others can still hear us. So we'll just push on, mate. We've got it recorded. The timing of it and 5 minutes. Is there 5 minutes that the wish you could take back from somewhere, and tell us what the finish was, and tell us about the 5 minutes.
Yeah, my bloody crew. They managed to stuff me around, and we got to the finish line 12 days and 5 minutes later. So unofficially, I finished, and I was 18th out of 50 starters. And unofficially, that was the result. Officially, because I was 5 minutes over the actual the allocated time, or the allowed time, then I was a DNF. I did not finish.
Yeah.
So,
what did that mean to you?
I mean, it meant more to the crew because they were speaking to the authorities, like the officials and stuff like that, and they're saying like, 5 minutes, surely it doesn't matter. And they're saying, no, it does matter. For me, it was just an absolute relief to kind of get to the finish line, and it was also a sense of elation and a sense of, yeah, I've done this, and I managed to do it, and so to me, it didn't bore too much, and like, we could have falsified our time, but they've got these award ceremonies at the very end, and I was awarded. Um, they give an annual award, and it's for integrity and sportsmanship, and I managed to win that because you could have easily clawed back those 5 minutes, and that award, much more than anything, getting that 5 minutes back, that meant so much more, and it's a wee bit of unfinished business. I might go back and have to do it again.
Mate, it's only you could truly understand what that 5 minutes might mean. But I sit here on the bike, and I just think, it makes for a good yarn, makes for a good story. But holy shit, you did the whole thing, and it reminds me of a mate. Last year, we're doing UTA, the 50K run from the Blue Mountains, and as you know, there's the mandatory gear, and he's no runner, he's no athlete in the finish line, and they're doing the mandatory gear, and of course, if you don't have it, you get penalised from time. And they're saying, "Where's your gear?" And he's going, "Oh, I didn't carry that. I didn't want the weight. I didn't need this, didn't need that." And they're adding, 5 minutes at a time of his time, and you go, "I don't give a shit." No one takes away the fact that I've just done my first ultra, and I guess there's those who, it's about the time and all the rest. And, it's, as I say, I think it makes for a good story. So talking about good stories, this weekend, I'll get up tomorrow morning. I'll do a 25-minute, a 25-kilometre session on this spin bike. And then, mate, the rest of the weekend, I'll be having a long lunch and got some good friends coming up. We'll be drinking red wine, sitting around the campfire. Probably have about 10 hours sleep tomorrow night. I have a long sleep in on Sunday morning. How's your weekend looking?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm getting up Saturday morning quite early, and then a little place in Sydney called Preston's is the start point of the M7 bike path, and I'm going to do 10 loops of that 80-kilometre loop. So that equals 800 kilometres. Starting at 6 a.m. and hopefully finishing Sunday evening 6 p.m. So 36 hours. We'll see how we go.
Mate, you know that this challenge, is it just that you were like one of these kids at school that if you had an assignment done, you had a month to do it, you got up the morning before and handed it in? Mickey, that we've had a whole month to do this ride. You didn't have to leave it to the last weekend.
I'll go back to your opening comment, Pete. You're very astute.
Mate, it's something that, truly, when you start to embrace some long distance events, you have this untold respect for those that go and do bigger and longer. And as you know, our good friend Greg Wallace ran the 800K ride over 8 days in Thailand, and it wasn't until I rode past him each day on the bike that the sense of what he was doing really hit me. And I think that we can all in our own way have some type of appreciation for riding distances that are long for us. But what you're about to do, it's a massive effort, and you're doing it for the kids, and bring attention and support hands. And I know that all of us, and I'm serious, all of us up here for the weekend will be thinking about you, mate. We'll be sending you our best wishes, and hoping that that ride up and down the M7 is as pain-free as it can be, and that it all goes to plan.
Thanks, Pete. I mean, I think somebody told me the other day it's the equivalent of riding from Sydney to the Gold Coast. I think I'd actually rather have that because doing 10 laps of the same kind of circuit, that's going to kind of mess with the mind a little bit. Whereas if you're just going in one direction, it's a little bit less on the mind. I think it'll go well. I've got a good support crew. You know, every lap they'll kind of kick in. They'll give me the necessary food, give me the necessary nutrition. The reason I did the M7 bike path is it's a loop. People can join in. You know, if anybody wants to ride with me, do a loop or 2 or even 10, free to join me. It starts in Ash Road Sporting Complex in Preston's, and we cycle from there up to the Old Windsor Road, do a U-turn, come back down to the Ash Road Sporting Complex. It's safe as well, and it's well lit, so you know you're not having to negotiate any cars or. I think there's very, very little wildlife that you'll encounter as well. So it all makes up for a really good weekend.
Yeah, when we spoke about it, when you were talking about what you're going to do, it actually, you know, for me, having ridden the M7, you know, many times, it actually makes sense. I think apart from what you say is, you know, it'll be, is this the number 6 or is this number 7 lap? You know, apart from that. I think it's a great place to ride because of the safety, because it's lit. There are some undulations there that break it up. But Mickey, what we'll do is we'll post those details onto our page and also the broader Facebook group, and you know, connect us with the support crew so we can check in over the weekend, because you know when I'm standing around that fire, I'll need something to talk about, and your suffering in the cold will be just a spirit to raise my spirits, mate.
Sounds good.
All right, mate. Well, safe travels, and thank you for you know, doing what you're going to do for the kids, and thanks for joining us. It was a great chat, and really appreciate you getting up early, mate.
Pete, thanks very much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Plenty. I think we'll have to get a few of you over to Thailand to ride with us.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Just looking at those roads, very, very enticing.
All right, mate. I'm going to hand back to CT, and all the best for a safe and successful weekend for you, Mickey.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much, Mickey. And I know there's I can see one person on there who does do a bit of training out on the M7, Mr. McRae. So Darren, no excuses this weekend. I reckon you should get down to the M7 and take Lael and introduce her to the M7 too. I think you'll both love it, and Mickey would love some company. So you're welcome. So that's a wrap for today. Mickey, we do wish you the very best of luck over the weekend, and I'm sure it will have its challenging moments, but we are so appreciative of what you're doing for the kids. We've had some great comments coming in from everyone, just wishes good luck, and there's also a comment there around, do you have a page that we can sponsor you? So we'll obviously share all of those details in the Facebook group, and you can get behind Mickey and support him on this journey. So so that's a wrap for us today. We would love to see you back here tomorrow if you're not riding on the M7. And we've got
Campo at lunch.
Campo
Today, David Campesi.
Oh, David Campesi.
I thought it was Saturday when I started this, and I said, oh, it's a Saturday morning, but yeah, it's Friday. So we've got David Campesi.
Fabulous. So we've got David Campesi, and then coming up tomorrow, we've got Michael Hull.
Yeah.
So another adventurer and an ultra marathon runner. So some good chats coming. We've got a live cross to DPF tomorrow, so one of our homes. So plenty coming up this weekend. But until then, have a great Friday, and we will see you all hopefully tomorrow.
See you all.
Good luck, Mickey.
See you, Mickey.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, mate.
Bye.